Good morning from the iPhone reality show. This is day 5, and it's 10 o'clock in Italy. We're a bit late, but there's a reason for that. Basically, we tried to shoot a short feature film, like spaghetti western style, with Aaron as Clint Eastwood and the guys as the baddies. And I think it came out pretty good. And so, what do you think? Are you?
I think it's going to be a big hit. I'm certain it's going to be our most downloaded short.
Did you like spaghetti western movies?
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Yeah?
Good, bad, and ugly. Sure.
Yeah, great, great. But apart from like acting day, day 5 is also a review day, like as the plan was saying.
Right.
And so, are we there? Is it?
Not at all.
Okay, cool.
And actually, that's a really
Perfect.
interesting thing about software in general. And as much as anything, this is sort of an educational opportunity to reach out to people who are sitting around thinking about being iPhone developers or developers of some sort. And one of the things that's really difficult is when a company wants a piece of software written, they say, well, we've got this much time and we've got this much money. Can you write it? And they show you a spec, and the spec is maybe a couple pages long. And you're supposed to look that over and say, oh, yeah, we can do it for that amount of money. And in reality, doing a good estimate of how long it's going to take to write software can take just as long as writing the software. Because creating software is actually the process of design as you do it. No one really understands the process, the problem space, until they get in pretty far. They don't really understand the challenges they're going to face until they get to those challenges. And so I used to have a boss, his name was Rock. And Rock had a compiler company. And so our clients would call up and they would say, we really need this feature. And Rock would say, let me see what the engineers say. And he'd turn around to the engineers and he'd say, how long is it going to take you to add this feature to our compiler? And the engineers would say some amount of time, like maybe 4 days. When Rock would go back to the client to promise them something, what he would do is add 1 and then increase the time unit by 1. So if they said 4 days, he would make it 5, and instead of days, it would be weeks. And he would tell the client it's going to take 5 weeks. And that way he was usually not embarrassed by the actual results. But that gives you an idea of how bad.
And the clients would say
our
yes,
estimates
of
are.
course.
Well, if they need it,
They don't know.
They don't know how long it's going
Okay.
to take. That's the good news.
So did you use this system with Command Guru?
I did not. So I was sitting at home, and I didn't even have a specification because we hadn't dreamed up what the app was going to be at all. And Alessio said, well, what should the project look like? And so I kind of enumerated off the things that had to happen. And then I just wrote down a schedule. Well, this is sort of the different pieces, and I kind of broke it up evenly. And I looked at the last couple of days, and I knew that documentation and localization were, first of all, not necessary. So we could cut them out if we really had to. Of course, they should be done. But getting a shipping app was really the goal. And I thought, those are both padded and unnecessary. If we have to stretch out a little bit in those days, it shouldn't be a disaster. But yeah, I'm feeling a little bit pushed at this moment to get it all done. We're still working on the web service. We have more help now. We have a person helping with the database. Mose has come and is helping with PHP. And of course, Jim is continuing to work on it. I'm doing a little bit of SQL. So it's coming along.
Will we need 8 weeks, like for the what your boss used to
Right,
say?
it was 7 days.
Yeah.
So I add 1, it just
8
makes
weeks.
it 8 weeks.
So shall we stay here for 7 weeks more?
I would not be surprised if the app, when we get to the end of the 7 days, is workable and usable. But I would not be surprised if a lot of us go home and tweak it in our free time. Not full time, but over 8 weeks.
What do you think? Do you think the fact of working all together, like in a way, like delayed the times? The
Working all
process?
together?
Yeah, I mean, is
It
it
actually
hard?
helps. It makes things go faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can yell across the table at someone. So if we were working remotely, especially if we didn't know each other, it would have slowed the process down. So working together is actually more efficient.
Okay.
And it helps with the knowledge transfer. When I pass off, I did the map view that rotates left and right. And then David wanted to use it on his screen as well. So he could just lean over and say, well, how does that work? And I pointed out some code, and he started using it immediately. A process like that might have taken a couple of days if we had been doing it over email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as a tennis player, I think if you play single, everything is like that, and then you play double, something gets better. But something like, yeah, I mean, your mate maybe gets something wrong, or is on your way when you're hitting the ball.
Oh,
so what's
yeah,
what's
so
the problem about working all
certainly
together?
working by yourself is more efficient because there's no conflicts or dependencies. If you're working by yourself, you can do things in less total hours than if you're working with other people.
Yeah.
Because you see the whole project from end to end, you also recognize more quickly the parts that can be reused. So, for example, breaking events up into days is necessary to do those sorts of displays where you say, today, all the events for today, tomorrow, all the events for tomorrow. Well, I wrote that code, and David wrote the exact same thing. We basically duplicated our efforts, sitting right next to each other without realizing. So if I had been working alone, then when I got to the screen that David had been working on, I would have just reused that. So it would have been more efficient. So yeah, in general, that's why people work in such small teams when possible, is because it's more efficient. But if you really need something done as soon as possible, having a larger group like this should make things happen more quickly.
Yeah. And another question, like we kind of like the first days we were speaking about what's this application for.
Oh wait, I have one more thing to say about that.
Sure, please.
Working in a large group where everyone's as good as these people are. And that's something that should be said. On a team like this, a weak player can actually slow everybody down. Someone who keeps breaking the build can actually slow the whole group down. So there's a certain quality at which if you're below it, you actually slow the project down when you're added to it.
Yeah.
Above a certain quality, you tend to speed it up. And all of these, the entire team is of a quality where they're making everything better.
We have never talked about how they have been selected, actually.
I don't even know how they've been selected.
Okay, so we will ask Common Guru people.
That's
and
right.
then, yeah.
And actually, we also haven't talked too much about Alessio. He's the one who organized all this, and it's just been such a treat. He's been very accommodating. He's been our chauffeur. He's driven us everywhere. He got us all together. It's just been a great experience, and it's all because of Alessio.
Okay, let's see if we can get him on camera later on, because he just waved at the camera the first day, and then
he disappeared.
He disappeared.
Right.
So he deserves that for sure.
For sure.
And I was asking you, what's this application for? We kind of lost contact with the final aim of this application,
Right.
because you are all focused on coding and stuff. So
Right.
what is it, like, let's remind them also, like, what is this for? What is going to bring into the society?
Right. So most social media type applications, so when you talk about Twitter and things, every innovation has made it possible to talk to more and more people in a less and less significant way. And in fact, I think you could argue that social media is now replacing actual social life, where instead of seeing people, it's close enough just to Twitter to them or to have them on your Facebook. And our goal in creating this app was really to facilitate true social activity, that is, going and meeting people. So making it easier to create a meeting, advertise it to your friends, and then put the phone away so that you can actually be with your friends. It's not to interact with the phone, it's to interact with people. And I think that we're all really happy with that goal, that we're not just one more Twitter client.
Do you think this is going to be like a trend in future application development? Like, I mean, like using the digital world to connect with the real, to facilitate the real interaction?
I would love to say yes. However, history tends to be going in the opposite direction. What technology seems to be doing is making it possible to become more and more isolated. And that's just the direction it's been going. To substitute mediated interaction for real interaction.
But a discussion like the one something like you just said, that you're happy to do an application for like improving real life. Mm-hmm. Would you have done it 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Or it's like a kind of like sensibility that is developing now between programmers and like people dealing with this kind of application?
I see what you're going for.
Yeah.
I think 2 years ago I still would have done it. I think it still would have been an interesting idea. So I think, and I continue to think it's an interesting idea. Several days into pounding away at it, I think it's going to be a useful application.
But it's not a major trend.
But it's certainly not a major trend. I am bucking the trend.
You're a niche of good people.
We are
of good people trying to save the world.
That's right. We are bucking the trend.
Cool. Good.